The 2024 season has only just begun, and I know it's a little bit early for this, but the driver market could be insane over the next 12 months, and I wanted to let you know which drivers are going to be available. There are a whopping 12 drivers out of contract at the end of 2024, and we already know one of the huge driver changes for next year is Lewis Hamilton moving to Ferrari. These are the current drivers that are out of contract at the end of 2024. Starting with Sergio Perez from Red Bull. That's one of the big names. And it's mainly because some of the other changes we already know are coming potentially put Perez's seat under pressure. Perez was struggling last year, and some thought he might not make it through 2023, but he did. And I'm glad Red Bull gave him time to progress. Perez is in trouble though this year because with Carlos Sainz out of a drive at Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton leaving Mercedes, there could be some big driver changes and his place may not be safe. Even Daniel Ricciardo is breathing down his neck for a promotion from Racing Bulls. Speaking of Carlos Sainz, his contract is of course up with Ferrari, thanks to a certain Lewis Hamilton taking his job. Where Carlos will go is really up for debate. Would Mercedes consider putting him in that second seat next to George Russell? I can't really see it myself. The only other option that I see for Carlos is potentially going to Steak Sauber with a view towards the Audi takeover in 2026. There are some people that would love to see Carlos Sainz in that Red Bull seat next to Max, and that would be interesting, but is it likely? Probably not. I think Max would still comfortably beat Sainz over the course of a season, but I do think Sainz would get closer than Perez has so far. Then we have Fernando Alonso from Aston Martin. Interestingly, Fernando has said recently he's going to see after a few races this season if he still wants to carry on. Maybe Fernando is sowing the seeds of retirement. Maybe the passion is gone. He has been in the mix, though, for a potential one-year contract or maybe two at Mercedes, should they want to go with a more experienced driver to replace Lewis Hamilton. Then, both Alpine drivers, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, are also out of contract next year, with Gasly supposedly having the option of a renewal should he choose to. We already know Alpine are in for a tough season this year, and for a works team, doesn't look that great for them. Lots of personnel have moved on, and there is talk around that they just don't have the desire needed to improve the team. Gasly and Ocon would be feeling that if it was true, but where would they move to? Aston Martin is an option if Fernando does decide to retire, and Ocon has an outside chance at the Mercedes seat. Logan Sargent from Williams will also be hoping for a better season this year because his contract also runs out at the end of 2024. James Vowles has made it clear that Logan has to have a good season moving forward to give him a chance of retaining that seat for next year. He's been soundly beaten by Albon since entering Formula One, and while he does bring money to the team, and it's great having an American driver in the sport, he needs to be getting points for that team because they're so important. And Albon, well, he's been doing all the heavy lifting. Williams may decide that they need to get another driver for a chance to scrape some more points that will be very, very important in what could be a very close year. Both RB drivers are also out of contract as well. RB, of course, being Visa Cash App Racing Bulls and not Red Bull. But it's possible that one of them or both may not be there next year. Could Daniel replace Perez at Red Bull and rejoin Max Verstappen? Well, that would depend on quite a few factors. First of all, it would require Perez to have a particularly bad season, and it would mean Ricciardo would then have to have a big season at Racing Bulls by beating Tsunoda. There are a lot of moving parts. Tsunoda, on the other hand, isn't going to go down easily, but I don't see him ever going to Red Bull, to be honest. I'm not sure he'd be a good fit. Steak Sauber is an interesting one, with Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou being out of contract. We know that Audi are taking over the team in 2026, so 2025 could be a really important year for the team who are trying to build towards that really big change. There is absolutely no guarantee that either of those drivers will be in the minds of Audi for 2026, and Audi may very well want an input in what drivers are brought in next year or what contracts are offered for the current drivers heading towards 26. I'm not sure Guan Yu Zhou has shown quite enough to be part of that project just yet, and with Bottas getting older, I wonder if Carlos Sainz or maybe another driver we haven't considered would be up for the seat at Audi leading into 2026. Hadz also have both of their drivers out of contract as well, Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg potentially being in the last season with the team. There has been a big change of personnel at Hadz, with Gunther Steiner being replaced by Io Komatsu, which was a huge change for the team, and Kevin and Nico have both been great drivers over the last couple of years. But is there potential for some fresh faces at Hadz, or would they rather have experienced drivers? We should also talk about some other drivers that are potentially in line for a promotion up to Formula 1. Kimi Antonelli is a Mercedes junior who's in his first Formula 2 year, but there are also plenty of other juniors with huge potential. Oliver Beerman, Theo Pourchaire, the list goes on. 2024 was the first season in F1 history where there were no driver swaps between seasons. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. But in 2025, we could see maybe one of the biggest shakeups in modern Formula 1 with so many drivers out of contract and already a few big changes lined up. There is a potential for a lot of shocks when it comes to driver selection and maybe some fresh talent to enter the sport, which I am really, really excited about. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.